When the mic opened to students, things got real fast. No scripts, no filters. Just tough questions hitting straight at JD Vance. From politics to personal struggles, nothing was off limits, and his answers? Not what many expected.
But the idea that this is done now is ridiculous, and frankly, it's cynical, pessimistic garbage pushed by people who want us to completely give up. Don't give up. We got to keep on fighting. That's the fundamental and most important thing, is the people telling you to give up on the midterms are the people who want us to lose the midterms. Don't listen to them. But what's the game plan? You asked what the game plan is. So I'll give you a little good news and a little bad news on that, because the bad news and the good news about the modern Congress is, whether you agree with this or not, the districts are so gerrymandered, there aren't that many battleground congressional districts left. Like if you go back to 2014, where I think Republicans won like 80 seats in the House, that's not going to happen. Elections like that don't happen anymore. So what we got to fight is 20 or 30 districts where there's actually some real competition in those districts. We got to put a lot of resources. We got to knock on a lot of doors. We got to get out the marginal Trump voter. Because one of the things we saw in 2024 is a lot of our voters, they're dedicated, they love the president, they don't show up in midterm elections. So we got to knock on as many doors and make sure those people get out and vote. We have a game plan, but the House is going to be determined by 20 or 30 seats. We just got to win as many of those as possible. And yes, we can win the midterms in 2026.
Thank you.
And we should say what's happening in Virginia. You know?
Exactly. I mean, and then this is the thing. Democrats always overreact. They always overreach. They always do crazy things. And look, there are districts where, MSNBC will say, well, this district, Donald Trump won it by 20 points, and then this guy only won it by 12 points. That means everything's terrible. You look in Virginia, or look at some of these other places where, Kamala Harris won it by 4 points, and now Republicans are winning by a few points. There's a lot of reason to think that we have a good chance here. We just got to keep on working at it. Sorry, next question.
And the redistricting. Make sure if you're watching in Virginia.
Yes, sorry. Virginia, vote against the Obama-Spangenberger redistricting plan.
Yep.
Vote against it. And frankly, the polls are moving in our direction a little bit. We just got to get out there and defeat that ballot measure.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for being here. It's truly incredible that you can come all across the world and then just be in Athens. So my question, not to sound pessimistic, but my question revolves around Congress.
Sure.
And, many Americans feel discouraged, even somewhat dissatisfied. The executive sets out a plan. We you want to do something, but Congress sometimes is just unable to deliver. And with, the inability to keep the government open during shutdowns and all of that stuff, what are your thoughts? I know leaders such as Governor DeSantis have called on term limits for Congress members, balanced budget amendments, and banning stock trading. What do you think are just some practical measures that we can take to ensure Congress is delivering results to the American people?
Yeah, so great question. And I remember during the State of the Union address, when the president talked about banning members of Congress from trading stocks, I looked over at Nancy Pelosi and she was sitting in her chair like... And if you watch the State of the Union, I start laughing hysterically. It's because I looked over and saw the look on Nancy Pelosi's face. I think people don't have any idea how bad the corruption is in Washington, D.C. So yeah, I love the idea of term limits for Congress. You know what I love more? I love the idea of term limits for bureaucrats. Nobody in Washington, D.C. should be able to sit in a chair for 30 years, do your public service, and go back home and do something productive. But so much of what's broken about Congress really does go down to corruption. So, there's so many examples, let's say, of a congressman who got a classified briefing on COVID. It's like, oh, there's this crazy Wuhan flu that's floating around Wuhan, China. And again, at that point, like everybody called it the Wuhan flu. And then you come out of that classified briefing and you buy a bunch of biotech stocks, or you buy a bunch of pharmaceutical stocks. Or maybe, you sell airline stocks because you know that the airlines aren't going to work that well if everybody's sort of sheltering in place and governments are shutting down the economy. That stuff should be illegal and you should go to prison for it. And if you just cut out the basic corruption, you'd solve a lot of the problem.
Thank you so much.
This will be the last question.
Okay. Can we take two more? Because I like answering questions. We'll take a couple more.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Before I get to my question, I just want to, number one, thank you for your service to the United States military, and number two, welcome you to the greatest university in this country.
Thank you.
My question is, as somebody whose parents adopted 3 children from the foster care system, and coming from a broken household yourself, we have seen different sides of a somewhat similar narrative. How would you respond to somebody who says that the only way to succeed in this country is to come from a generationally wealthy family?
That's a good question. Wow, I didn't expect that one. Well, first of all, it's just not true. And I think that one of the things that a very powerful thing that somebody told me is that, disadvantage and unfairness is just, it is true. Not everybody started at the exact same place. Some people were dealt a much worse hand than others. But what somebody, again, this person gave me a very good piece of advice and said, no matter what hand you were dealt, you have the responsibility to play it as well as you can. And I think that for me at least, there was something empowering for me about recognizing that, yeah, my life wasn't as easy as most other kids. Like, I wasn't born with money. I wasn't born with parents who had connections, but I still had a responsibility to God. I had a responsibility to myself to play that hand as well as I possibly could. And that was very empowering to me. So I think first the message is, look at the stories. Look at Clarence Thomas. Look at all the people in the United States who have come from very humble beginnings and achieved great things. You can believe, as I do, that we have to do a lot better job by the young people of this country, while at the same time knowing that you are the master of your own destiny. Never give up on yourself, and never believe that you're a victim of circumstances, because when you believe that, you will be a victim of circumstances.
Thank you so much, and go Dogs.
She's trolling you with that.
I know.
Hi, Mr. Vice President.
Hello.
My name is Esther. This is so cool. So I know, like, the whole H-1B thing you talked about, but I am also a daughter of a legal immigrant who came here on an H-1B visa.
Sure.
So my mom and my dad, we've been here for over 10 years. I was born here, well, more than over 10 years. I'm 20 years old. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's okay. Take your time.
But, like, for people who have been here on H-1B visas, it's been really hard, like, getting the green card based on everything with quotas and everything. Like, my family, we're from India, the quotas are so bad, and they're still open, and they're taking the money. How do we fix the immigration system for people who have been waiting for the green cards for so long, and they're not getting it in time? Because a lot of people don't know it, during the Biden administration, to get a green card, it would...
This exchange works on a deeper level than just a typical political Q&A because it highlights something many viewers rarely get to see: how a public figure like JD Vance handles unscripted pressure in real time. Unlike controlled interviews or prepared speeches, student-led questions tend to be more direct, more personal, and sometimes more unpredictable. That unpredictability forces authenticity, or at least something closer to it, and that's exactly what keeps audiences engaged. One of the strongest undercurrents throughout the discussion is the idea of personal responsibility versus systemic challenges. Vance leans heavily into the belief that individuals must take ownership of their circumstances, regardless of where they start. That message is powerful, especially for younger audiences looking for motivation, but it also opens up a broader debate. Critics would argue that focusing too much on individual effort risks overlooking structural barriers that can't simply be outworked. This tension between personal accountability and systemic reality is one of the defining debates in modern politics, and moments like this bring it into sharp focus.